We are live. Good evening, everybody. Mambo. We have three very special hubs joining in from today. Got Aya Lab from Accra, Decentricode from Uganda, and the infamous Web3 clubs from Kenya. Super excited to have all of you joining in and super grateful for you, Lucas, who agreed to host and to present your story on the On-Chain Safari series. Um, just a quick note, many of you are familiar with the Eat Frontiers event that happened in Nairobi a couple months ago. Lucas, you were there in person, and that's how we got connected. Um, uh, and we're also really interested to learn more about, what are EIPs, how can people just contribute, and yeah, just to hear more about your story. So I'll give it away to you, Chris, and I'll join right at the end for some important announcements. So if you're listening to this, please stay tuned till the end so I can share some important announcements about the events that are coming up. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Coco. Welcome everyone. Good good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining in from. Or should I say GM? GM. Okay, welcome to the fourth. This is the fourth episode of Tech Talk Tuesday by On Chain Africa Collective. I don't think I have to say so much about the reason these episodes are right, or the reason they're having these episodes, because Coco already did justice to that from the first episode. If you're new here, I think, and you don't know about these episodes or why it's been organized, you could go and watch the very first episode to get to know more about it. So quickly, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Nkechi Enibeli, popularly known as Caris. I personally am a tech host and I'm the programs manager at Web3 Ladies. A little about Web3 Ladies, right? So our Web3 Ladies, our mission is we are on a mission to onboard the next 100,000 highly skilled African female technical talent in the Web3 space. And we're doing this through a series of initiatives or impactful initiatives that we roll out in the organization from time to time. Some are, which includes our mentorship program, our Titan Fellowship program, our Work Tool Assistance program. We have technical community engagement, such as hackathons and workshops, right? So one thing we believe in Web3 is the fact that we believe that the problem in the Web3 space is kind of centered around education. And I believe that you would agree with me on that, Lucas, because you're someone that is very invested in education, right? So that's we believe that the problem is centered around that, as well as mindset, right? The mindset, because you could know everything in the world, right? But if you don't have the right mindset, you would really know nothing, right? And you can't really talk about it. So yeah, that's what we are about, and that's a little about me. But we are not here to talk about me. We're here to see the world of Ethereum through the eyes of a protocol engineer, Lucas. But before we start, we delve into the agenda for today. I would like to give a big shout out to Web3 clubs, because Web3 clubs have been joining in from the very beginning. They've been consistent. I've been joining the sessions from the episode one, and they've always been here. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys. And I also see Higher HQ, Higher Labs. Shout out to you guys as well. Thank you for your contributions to Muakra. Shout out to you guys at Uganda as well. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Okay, so I think we can start, right? Lucas, so how would you how would you introduce yourself if you were stuck in an elevator with your all-time favorite builder? How would you introduce yourself?
Oh, how I would introduce myself. I think I would say, I'm this guy that likes to program and play video games, I guess. And kind of stumble upon Ethereum by accident and then started, getting very passionate about it. And it's been doing that for almost 7 years now. I think that'll be the my quick introduction, I guess.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's get the more detailed introduction.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, thank you everyone for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. As Coco mentioned, we connected back in Kenya a few months ago. I think it was 2 months ago. Had the opportunity to go to Africa for the first time in my life. I was very surprised, to get to know the community, the Web3 community that was there. It was very good. The connections that I made, listening to some of the projects that you folks have been working on, some of the challenges and everything. So it was a very good, give me like a new perspective on a lot of things. It was very, very good. And then when Coco asked me to, if I was going to be willing to have a chat with you all, I'm like, yeah, sure, that'll be amazing. The hard part was finding a good time because of the time zones and everything. It's not too bad. It's like 5 a.m. here, so it's not too bad.
Oh wow!
It's a bit early. But that's fine. Usually I wake up early because of the kids. So it's not. I don't have. I can't sleep in most of the time. So yeah. So today I just have a few slides. I'm not. My goal wasn't to make like a super technical presentation or anything. I'm gonna touch up on some technical concepts, just enough so people can understand a little bit of what do I do as a protocol engineer, what it means, a little bit of context for Ethereum. Quick rough agenda. I'll just introduce myself. Going to talk a little bit about some of the projects that I've been working on. I'll try to explain to people what is protocol engineering, because most people don't really know what it means when we say, oh, I'm a protocol engineer. What is that? I'll share some tips, where people can learn more about it, or if you want to get started into protocol engineering, if you are a developer, you want to start contributing to some of these projects, how can you do it? And yeah, we're gonna have plenty of time for Q&A and everything at the end.
Okay, so I think we should start with the questions that we have here.
Sure.
Right. I think we should start with the questions that we have here now. So the number one question here is so I know cryptography has to do with encrypting information in order to ensure security, but for the sake of some listeners here and those that might be listening later and that has no idea of it, can you break down cryptography in layman's terms and explain its role in securing blockchain technology?
Yes, that's an interesting question. So if you think of cryptography in like a classic way, it's all about techniques of protecting or hiding information. So that's kind of how cryptography was born. It was this idea of you want to securely send a message to someone. How can you do it in a way that if the message gets intercepted, people can't really just read it and they won't know what is in that message. So that's the basic concept. And then within cryptography, we have different types and different algorithms and everything. But there are two very big distinctions, which is symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. For Ethereum, we are very interested on the asymmetric side of things, because that's where we have public and private keys that can be used in a way. Some very smart people realize that you can use cryptography for digital signatures as a way of validating some data. And using those public keys and private keys, you can basically create a signature that proves that you actually created that message, right? Hopefully. So when it comes to Ethereum, the most important property of cryptography that we use is this way where you can sign messages, and everyone else in the network, everyone else seeing those messages, will know that it came from you. There are a few places where this is very important. I think the one that people are mostly used to see it is when you have a transaction, right? When you're submitting a transaction, if you've done it through maybe MetaMask or something, you sign a transaction, and then that transaction will be propagated to the network. Everyone else can basically verify that that transaction was created by the person who owned the private key.
Okay.
So we know that it's a valid transaction.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. This is on blockchain basics, right? Just so we have an overview of blockchain before going to the main questions for today. So, can you tell us how does cryptography ensure the immutability and integrity of data on a blockchain network? How does it ensure it?
I think they're probably like two. I think those are like two separate properties that I'll break them into two answers. I think when it comes to immutability, so basically what it means is once everyone is happy with an outcome, so once everyone agrees that something has happened on the chain, for example, it cannot be changed, right? You want to make sure that no one can basically go and change the past
It's
and then things.
unchangeable.
So the way that this works is this part has actually less to do with cryptography per se, and then more to do with the way that we do hashing on the data. So hashing is a function where basically for one specific input, you're going to have a output, and it's like a one-way function. You can't really go backwards from the output. You can't really go back to what the original content was. But one of the properties that the hashing function gives you is that different inputs are going to give you different outputs, right? So that's what hashing does. The way that we use it in a very clever way with blockchain is that every time that we create a block, one of the feuds, let's say one of the data that you put on that block is the hash of the parent block, right? So basically you create this link, and that's part of the reason why we call blockchain, right? You create this link in between those blocks, and because everything is relying on the hash of the previous block, so you hash the previous block and you use that information as the identification that links it with the previous block. You create this chain of blocks that if you change one single byte in one of them, it's going to completely change the hash. And by changing the hash, every other block that depends on that one will also eventually change. So you know that someone has been tampering with the data, basically. So it's impossible to change without everyone knowing that something has changed, basically.
Exactly.
So that's how we use for immutability. And for integrity, that is a bit more related to cryptography, because basically it goes back to that point where only the person that has their own private keys, only they are able to sign their transactions. Or in case of validators, only your validator can vote on the blocks on your behalf. So integrity comes from those properties that we talked about, like cryptography and the way that everything works. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't know how much people know about blockchains and how they work. So hopefully, by the time that you get it to the end of the presentation, those concepts make a little bit more sense. If people don't really know, maybe some people are looking at it and they don't really know what I'm talking about. But so hopefully, that's actually one question that I have in terms of the audience here. Do you guys, maybe you guys can quickly put it on chat, like what kind of level you are in terms of Ethereum? Are you like a user of Ethereum, or have you developing some applications with Ethereum? Are you just curious and want to listen a little bit about Ethereum? If people can drop in chat just like a summary or
okay, I think that works. That works. So you guys can. So everyone listening, you can put in your the level you are in Ethereum right on the chat, so we can see how we can fine tune the questions and the answers. Okay, so moving on to more about your professional journey, right, Lucas? So from being a Java developer and moving to Auckland in 2015 to being a blockchain protocol engineer at Consensus in 2018 till date, what's your key takeaway on your career journey so far, and how or what can those watching learn from your experience? Also briefly highlight what initially sparked your interest in software development.
Well, I think I'll start with the last part of the question. So I
I can see your slide. Your journey. Born in Mario. Day. I don't know. Continue. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I started working with software. Um, it was almost like, in a way, by accident, but it was like a happy accident. So when I
Oh
was
wow.
finishing high school, um, and at least I don't know if it's similar for you guys there, but at least back in Brazil, usually when you're finishing high school and you want to go to university or something, you need to pretty much most of the time you try to go to like a public university, like a government funded university, because like private universities are very expensive. So you in the way that it works, you have to kind of basically choose what course you want to take, and then you do like a test, and then if you
Yes,
do well on the
exactly.
test, you get in. If you don't, so basically everyone that wants to join, start university, they do the test, and then hopefully your score is good enough for you to get. I
Okay,
didn't know
I'm
what
thinking.
I didn't. Is that the same in over
Same
there?
thing. The
Okay,
same thing.
cool.
Actually, yes, yes. And then
Okay,
I think I know where you're going to. Like they change the course, right?
so you're breaking
Something
up a
like
bit
that.
here. Changing the.
Oh,
Uh,
can you
can
hear
you
me?
repeat it? Yeah, I can hear you, but I just missed your last comment.
So I said I think I know where you're going to, right? They change your course, the course you applied for.
No, I didn't. I didn't change the course, but basically, I didn't really
Okay.
know exactly what I wanted to do.
Oh, okay.
And the only thing that I knew is that I really enjoyed playing video games,
Uh,
and and someone told me that, like, oh, if you like video games, you're probably gonna like computer science, and I'm
mm,
like, okay, interesting. And then when I checked computer science, like, it was one of the courses that wasn't too hard to get in, because
oh.
well, back then I didn't know, but the reason that it's not that hard to get in computer science is because a lot of people drop out because
So
it's
the
not the
competition is not
easiest
very high.
one,
Yeah.
because it's not the easiest course. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll try computer science, and then I ended up, being accepted and everything, and that's kind of
Mm.
how I stumbled upon software development.
Software development.
What people didn't tell me is that computer science is less about computer, like, programming, and a lot about mathematics and physics, and learning a lot about how computers work and everything. But by the time that I started, taking the courses and everything, I started enjoying it. I'm like, okay, that's actually very interesting, and that's kind of how I got started. So it was kind of not really what I didn't really know what I was getting into.
Mm.
But it was, yeah, it was, I really enjoyed it. So
Mm.
that's how my passion for software engineering came from.
So,
And to the second part of your question, my career, sometimes it's even crazy for me when I think back that I've been working with Ethereum for like 7 years, which is,
was a
basically
decade.
like, it's almost like half of my professional career has been in
Yeah.
Ethereum. It's crazy, because I think it's been such a journey, and so full of like highs and lows, and different bull markets and everything, and people going crazy about crypto, and people hating crypto, and then people
Yeah.
loving NFTs, and then people hating NFTs. So it's a whole journey. But one interesting thing for me that has always been interesting when I talk to people is, because the work that we do in protocol engineering is such like low level compared to everything else that's built on top in crypto.
Mm.
A lot of times I'm kind of like, in a way, detached from some of those craziness periods, because we are focusing on the technology, right? We are focusing on keeping Ethereum working and moving forward.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then what people are building on top of Ethereum, all the crazy stuff, all the cool stuff, sometimes I don't connect too much with that, which, sometimes is sad, because you kind of miss the opportunities of, participating more. But at the same time, when things are going crazy, it helps you to kind of stay stay in your corner, just coding and getting things going forward.
The
So
network is shitty. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
yeah, I think you broke up like halfway through the question again to
The
me.
network is terrible. Well, we're here. So
But anyway, so yeah, so I think
talking about the
and
career part.
yeah, in my career, that's been
Basically.
yeah, and even joining Consensus was kind of like another accident. I think now you're preparing for this presentation, I realized that my life is full of like nice
Accidents.
accidents. Because I wasn't, before joining Consensus, I wasn't really involved in blockchain. It was back in 2018. Ethereum in Bitcoin were, they were still like, they were already talking about it and everything, but it wasn't as mainstream as it is today.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
when the way that basically they found me is because I was contributing to some open source projects, like on the Java ecosystem, but like
Mhm.
random projects, not like specific blockchain projects or anything. And Consensus, because they were preparing to write their own Ethereum client in Java, they were trying to find people with open source experience. So they found me on GitHub, and then one day I got a random email from the company saying, "Hey, we are building this thing. Do you wanna join?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't even work with blockchain. Go away." and then they replied, "Well, we're not looking for people that know blockchain. We're looking for people that are willing to learn blockchain."
Yeah, wow,
And
amazing.
that's
Yeah,
one
that's
thing that sparked my interest, because it's not every day that you see a company basically willing to hire you to learn something.
mm,
It's not every day that you see a company that wants to hire you for what you can bring in terms of like knowledge and experience, and
value.
not just
Yeah,
you know so
that's
that
your
was
interest in value.
to me, that was interesting, and that's kind of how they got me. I'm like, okay, that's different. I'll
I
pay a
think
little bit more attention to them.
I think I would say that the one sorry, one lesson that we could learn from your journey so far, right? One key takeaway is the fact that we should embrace accidents, right? Or we should look forward
Mm,
to accidents, good accidents.
yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. That's a beautiful story. I think so. That brings me to my next question, right? How are you able to? I'm curious. How are you able to learn protocol engineering with the limited amount of resources available back then in 2018? How did you do it?
Oh, that was a very challenging thing. So, well, I'm lucky that on the protocol engineering ecosystem, we don't have a lot of people, but we have very smart people, and everyone is willing to help when they can. So I was basically going through all different, trying to like scavenge the internet and find all the resources available for things. Trying to read, sometimes read even like the source code of some of the clients that were out there. One
That'd be
thing that I'm
very
going to talk a little,
challenging.
yeah, one thing that I'm going to talk a little bit more soon is like the yellow paper and all this like technical description of Ethereum. That was kind of a whole thing, kind of blew my mind, and I'm like, oh, that thing is crazy. What I'm getting into. So it was basically trying to find different sources of information, but I had to do a lot of work, like kind of
Mm.
myself, basically getting out there. There wasn't like any YouTube video talking about like, oh, this is what you should learn for protocol engineering, or this is
Yeah, that's yeah.
the thing. It was basically like trying to dig for information and link different pieces of information. And I think one big challenge for protocol engineering is that it requires so many different domains. So like we talked a little bit about cryptography. You have some maths that goes into it, different like data structures and engineering, and it's so many different areas together into this thing that can be a bit challenging sometimes. But at the same time, once you start working with it, you realize that um, you don't need to know everything before you even get started. You can kind of learn as you go, and you can maybe a little bit about networking, and that's going to be useful for protocol engineering on its own space. So it's I think doing the best what you have in hands. Luckily nowadays things are a little bit better, so there are more resources available. There
Yeah,
are
exactly.
different
True.
options. I'm gonna mention some resources, so hopefully that helps.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so my next question should would be on protocol engineering itself. What is it about? Can you explain what a blockchain protocol engineer does and the typical responsibilities involved? Also, how can one get started?
I can. Let me just jump to I have a protocol engineering slide here. Let me quickly jump into it. This one, cool. So product engineering. I think just before I touch on product engineering, I just want to check if how much people know about how Ethereum works in terms of like not all the details, but like roughly how it works kind of behind the curtain. Do people have that kind of understanding? The way they have, the network and how the blocks
I
are
think
created.
I think we should. We should start from there. I think we
Okay,
should
cool.
start from there.
Okay, yeah, because I had a slide just kind of explaining a little bit about it, just to kind of. It's hard to understand what product engineering is if you don't know a little bit of how things
Ethereum
work.
works.
So
Yes. So
okay,
let's
so
start from the.
I'll try to do it. I'll try to make justice to what Ethereum is in one slide, which is very pretentious of me, but hopefully. So the idea is you have this decentralized network, right? So and
Yeah.
anyone can join. So when we say anyone, it's like if you have, of course, that's an interesting thing because when you say anyone, and that's actually one thing that when I was, in Kenya talking to some people, I realized that we say anyone, but there's also like sometimes some resources challenges that makes you not really able to participate, right? So for example, internet bandwidth can be something that limits people from being able to have a node connected to the network. You have to process all these messages that go around and everything. Even like sometimes having a computer that is like good enough to participate in the network. And when I say participate in the network, I'm not talking about using Ethereum. I'm talking about like running your own Ethereum node, right? So, but in theory, anyone can join. There are no like politics around joining. There's no sign up that you need to do.
No limitations.
If you have internet and if you have a computer, you can connect to the network. Today we produce a block every 12 seconds. We have what we call validators, which is kind of an entity in the system. Everyone can become a validator. You deposit Ether as a stake, and then the validators are going to be voting on the next block. They're going to be voting, proposing the next block, and you earn rewards as you go. So the whole system is made in a way where there are some incentives for people to join as a validator. The more validators that we have in the network, the more secure the network becomes because more people are voting and participating. And one thing that people don't realize now is that when we talk about the blockchain in Ethereum, we actually now have two blockchains that kind of go together. And that's a big change from like a few years ago. I don't know if anyone here remember back in 2021, the big topic in Ethereum was the merge. So what the merge was, it's basically before the Beacon chain, we only had one blockchain. There was the Ethereum blockchain. You had the nodes were doing proof of work. So everyone remember the people talking about mining Ethereum, and then you have all these people with crazy, graphic cards trying to mining Ethereum and blockchain, and so that was how the network used to work. They were like basically it was almost like a lottery. You had to do a lot of computation. Eventually, you find the magic number, and then you are the one proposing the next block, which works. It works, but there were some problems with it, and the two big problems were you had to have a very, very powerful computer to have any good chance of creating the next block. So back to accessibility. Not everyone has a very powerful computer at home, and you would have to waste a lot of energy to doing these calculations. You can use pretty much like to heat your house during winter or something. Or how hot, how much? Because it was like very, very hot. So the big change with the merge is that we went away from this proof of work way of doing things, and we started doing what we call proof of stake. So basically, the validators, they stake their Ether, which basically stake, it means almost like you deposit somewhere, and then if you do something wrong, we can slash you, so we can we can take some of your ETH and burn it. So that's how we incentivize people to not do anything wrong as a validator. But if you do things right, you get rewards. So you get like a little bit of Ether as part of your regular duties as a validator. And when I'm saying I'm not talking about like the person, right? I'm talking about the node. The node is the validator doing things. So it's not like you don't have to go and click or anything. It's a software that runs as a validator and knows when it's time to vote and knows it's time when to create a block and everything.
Yeah.
So now we have this dual chain, beacon blocks and execution blocks. So the beacon block is the one where the information about validators and the votes and everything are, and then they decide, who's going to propose the next block and everything. In the execution chain, the execution block chain has the execution blocks, which is the classic like blockchain that, as we know, with transactions and where the smart contracts exist and the interactions with smart contracts happen. It's on the second chain, so it's like a kind of two chains working as one. So that's an interesting concept to kind of so not everyone realize that we have two chains in
Two chains. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, briefly, I think I kind of talked a bit about it. We have this P2P network, a lot of Ethereum nodes. They are everywhere talking to each other. But if you look at looking at a diagram like this, it makes it look too simple, because in reality, one of these boxes here is a combination of a bunch of things. And I've tried to create this slide just to give a little bit of sense of all the different things that happen within the node. And hopefully that also gives a little bit of visibility on all the different domains. When I was talking about protocol engineering, you have all these different domains. So you can see that, all these like Beacon APIs, libp2p or dev P2P, those are all like networking related things, right? So that's how the nodes are going to talk to each other and different nodes and everything. You have things like the EVM, which is the the Ethereum virtual machine, where all the processing of the smart contracts happen, all the operations and everything. So you need people that know pretty much how to program a computer, because the EVM acts as a computer. You have the world state, execution chain, the beacon chain, which are databases that we have to be able to store data in an efficient way. You need to be able to retrieve that data in an efficient way. So again, so many different things.
Okay, hold on, Lucas. Let's see if everyone is following. If you're still following, please can you react in the comments? Let's know that everyone is following and
I lost you
understanding.
during the way. I'll try to bring you back.
So if you're following, please can I see some reactions in the comments? Can we send you some reactions if you're following and you're understanding? Okay, I'm seeing one. I know ZK and Ethereum, Gem1. I know a little bit what clients do. Okay, we're going to. You can send your questions for everyone that has questions. You can put them in the comments, and then we'll get to answer them when we get to the Q&A session. But I want to know if everyone is following. I'm a bit lost with this current slide. We are following. Okay, so we have a lot of people following, and few people lost with this current slide. So we are still on the slide. We are still on the slide. Yeah. So they said it should go deeper.
Cool. So this slide, hopefully, I don't expect people to look at this and understand everything that I'm talking about. So my goal with this breakdown was kind of to give, just again, show the context so people can understand what protocol engineering is, basically.
Can you? Okay, no need. Someone is saying you should restart the node breakdown, but I think that you can actually rewatch it. We watch this episode after we're done, so we don't have to like spend too much time on this. So we can just continue.
Okay, cool. So one interesting thing is, remember when I said that we have two chains? I think on 2 slides ago, I said that we have two chains.
Yeah.
If you look at this, you can see that then the Ethereum node is broken into at least two. There's like this dotted line in between, because we have the consensus client and execution client. And that's a interesting separation, because it's almost like you break the responsibilities into two. And the consensus client is the one responsible for let me go 2 slides back, for the chain at the top, the beacon chain. And the execution client is the one responsible for the chain on the bottom. And of course, they need to talk to each other. That's why we have this engine API at the middle here. So they talk to each other. And so that's also a change in the architecture after the merge. Before, you would have only one client. It was the execution client. We didn't call it execution client. We just call it Ethereum client, because it was the only thing that you had. But now you have all these different things that work together to create the Ethereum chain. And I'm talking all about this just because I want to get to what protocol engineering does. So as you can see, there are a bunch of different things that need to be working and talking to each other, and aligned on how things are supposed to work. And that's exactly what protocol engineering is. So basically, when you think about the Ethereum protocol, what we mean is it's almost like the set of rules that the Ethereum game is going to be played, basically. So the protocol is going to describe the way that the different actors in the system need to do. So what does an execution client need to do? What does a consensus client need to do? How does the what are the rules around what the validator is supposed to do? Like when is it time to propose a block? When is it time to vote on a block? What makes a block valid? So all of those rules, all of those things are part of the protocol, right?
As the name implies.
Yeah, and the protocol
As the name implies.
the protocol engineering is basically this combination of specifying the protocol. So the protocol is always evolving. That's an interesting thing. It's not like a thing that we've created back in in 2015 and it has never changed. Quite the contrary, it's always changing. And basically, as a protocol engineer, you're going to be working on the specification. You're going to be working on defining the protocol and everything, but also implementing the protocol most of the time. Not everyone does both. We have, for example, a lot of people that work on research that are basically just focused on the protocol specification, right? They are they were working very hard to understand what needs to change in the protocol for specific reasons, and then all the proofs around it, and then they give it to the people that implement the protocol. Like, okay, now we implement it. I'm mostly involved on the implementation side. I do participate a bit of the protocol like design and everything, but not as much as other like very like researchy people. So that's kind of like one thing to one takeaway is to understand that the protocol is always evolving and things are always changing, which means that we always have work to do. One interesting question that I get when people talk about protocol is like, well, who decides what the protocol is going to do, right? Like, we have the protocol. If the protocol is the rules of Ethereum, who owns Ethereum and who decides what happens, right? That's a very interesting question. So the governance in Ethereum is completely decentralized. Like, there's no one entity that owns Ethereum. Sometimes people hear about like the Ethereum Foundation and they think that, oh, the Ethereum Foundation owns Ethereum, but that's not how it works. The protocol is this group, it's basically this group of people, and I have this thing where I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings. So this is from like the movie where we have the elves and the dwarves and the hobbits and the humans all together deciding what they're gonna do with the ring. Hopefully everyone gets the reference for Lord of the Rings. I don't know if it's like a big thing for you guys, but so that's pretty much what happened. You have all these different teams working with Ethereum, and then they are together talking about, okay, what we're going to do now. We have this problem. How are we going to solve this problem? And then people have, you probably heard of forks of Ethereum. Like we have, like Shanghai and Electra or Prague, all these different forks. The forks are a way of us bundling changes in the protocol together. So basically get to a point where we're going to change things in the protocol. So the software has to change in a way that the rules are going to change, and then we need to have a specific time that the change gets applied to everyone at the same time. So that's basically the magic behind the forks. Because remember that all of these I'm talking about here, this node breakdown, it's not only one company implementing this. You have multiple companies implementing the same protocol in their own different ways, in different languages and different systems. So, for example, here at Consensus, we use Java, but there are some other companies implementing Ethereum in Go, in Python, Rust, like all different languages. So that's another very important thing for the protocol. Like everyone, even though they are using different languages and everything, the protocol, in the end, it has to do the same thing. So it's very important to have the specification well defined and having good ways of testing that the nodes are behaving in the same way. So we don't have like a problem where one node starts doing one thing and the other one starts doing another thing, and that's what we would call like a fork in the chain. They start going different ways. We definitely don't want to do that. So that's part of the work of a protocol engineering. And I'm sorry I feel like I'm talking too much about protocol engineering, but I'm trying to kind of make sure that people understand everything we are doing. I don't know if you have any questions about what protocol engineering so
So
far.
I think
I'm just pause
someone
for questions
asked
a bit.
someone. I think we can take this question because it has to do with this slide. Say
Cool.
which client do you recommend for the execution layer? Someone asked that.
What client I recommend? Well, I'm kind of biased because I've worked for 5 years on Besu as an execution client, so I would recommend Besu, just because but I think to be honest, it got to a point now that every client is so mature, and when I say every client, most of the standard clients, when you think about it, like you have Geth, you have Nethermind, you have Reth, you have Besu. So they are very mature, and the testing around clients is getting very good. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. I would say I would probably go for the one that you find easier to configure, or if whatever one you find the documentation a bit easier, or if they have like a Discord server, whatever one has an active Discord server that you can ask questions about it. The only thing that I would recommend is, and it's not because I'm not sending hate to the Geth team, but it's just because we have one problem with the Ethereum network today, is that we don't want, if possible, we want to avoid a majority of clients of the same client. And on the execution client world, Geth already has a big majority of on the network. So we are trying. If you wanna run a node and you want to help, choose whatever client that is not Geth. and again, not because I don't like them or anything. I don't have problems with the Geth team. It's just because for the security of the network, it's better if we have more diversity on the network, right? Because back to, again, linking a little bit on protocol engineering and how the network works, if most of the clients are using one specific implementation, most of the nodes are using one specific implementation like Geth, and then let's say that Geth has a bug, they're going to take a big part of the network with them on this wrong path, right? If you have a even spread, implementations of the nodes, even if one has a bug, it's not going to be a majority on itself. So all the other clients are going to keep the networking on the right path.
Exactly.
So that's kind of one of the reasons why diversity on the network is very important. So yeah, so I would suggest any client that is not Geth. Not because I don't like Geth, just because we already have too many Geth nodes running.
All right. Thank you. I hope that answers your question. Debugging with Chiza. So we can take one more question before we move on with the questions that we have. So this question has to do with, it said, what would you recommend between encrypting and hashing?
What I would recommend? Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is it in terms of what algorithms to use, or?
Okay, so Sandil, Remy, you could expatiate on your question, right? Then we can take it up from there. So I will go on to the next question that we have here. So I was going to ask you to explain the P2P high level diagram, right? But I think you already did that. So I'm going to go on to the global distributed computer model. What's it about?
The global distributed computing. Okay, that's part of the model of Ethereum. So I'll go back one slide. So when we say that Ethereum is this distributed computer, is because you can write and hopefully I understood the question correctly. So they're asking what it means when we say that Ethereum is like this global computer. Is that kind of the question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the way that Ethereum works, we have, remember that I was saying that we have the EVM. The EVM is almost like it's not almost like, it is the implementation of a computer. It can do pretty much everything that a computer can do, processing operations and everything. So the way that it works is anyone can write, a smart contract, which is, again, almost like programming. You are writing code and then you're going to run in a machine, right? You're writing smart contracts, you're running on the EVM. But the magic with Ethereum is that this execution is going to happen in this decentralized and global network, right? So it's a bit different from, and that's actually one mistake that people have sometimes, they think when we say that Ethereum is this global distributed computer, people associate that sometimes with like cloud computing, like AWS something in Azure, but that's not they are completely separate topics. Like the reason, because when you think about cloud computing is that you're running code on like a server that's running on Amazon or something, and then they have very powerful servers and everything. So that has nothing to do with the global computing on Ethereum. Global computing in Ethereum, it's decentralized, and it's running on this network, which is global, and basically no one can stop it. That's the magic with Ethereum, right? As long as you have nodes running, it doesn't matter what the government wants to do. It doesn't matter what any specific entity tries to do. If someone comes and like turns off my Ethereum node, Ethereum is still gonna keep working, right? I think recently, I don't know if everyone saw that we had an issue a few days ago with CrowdStrike, where a bunch of like computers in the world were having issues and stuff like that. So with Ethereum, as long as not everyone is running, your nodes on Windows, we would be fine, because you would have other people running with other operational systems, so the network would still keep going. So that I think, I don't know. Hopefully, that clarifies what we mean by the global computer.
Yeah, we're having a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to take them, but I think I would like to be mixing the questions, right? So I'm going to take one question now from the audience. With protocol engineering, are you compartmentalized in specific sections, e.g., those handling block creation, those handling network messages, or do you handle everything altogether?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think that really depends on the teams. So I know that some companies they have, for example, one person that is very, very good into computer networking, and then they do a lot of work on the P2P side of the implementation, right? For us on the Techo team, everyone is a bit more generalist, and then we do have some people on research that helps us whenever we need to get too deep into a specific topic. So I think it probably varies from team to like different teams, but in our case, we kind of need to know a little bit about everything, and then when we have to, we need to go and do a dive into a specific topic, and then we learn about it, and that's part of the reason why it's so dynamic, and you never get bored because you're always learning something new. You need to kind of and sometimes you learn something new, and then you kind of forget what you already knew, so you need to go back and relearn when you need again. It's always like you never get tired of it. I mean, you get tired, but you don't get like sick of it.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Michael Indeku. So I'll move on to the next question. What's the importance of this protocol? What's the importance of it?
Importance of the protocol. Well, I think the way to think about it is the protocol defines basically like the rules of the game, right? Like it's without the protocol, we wouldn't have the protocol is a way of unifying all the teams together, all the clients together, following the same rules. One thing that is very important, and I think I actually had let me just jump. Maybe this one is okay. So the one thing that is very important is that the protocol it's open, so it's open source. Everyone can see the protocol. There's no like behind the scenes rules or anything, so because human nature can be very like selfish sometimes, right? If it was something behind the scenes, you would start to see people doing like, if I'm part of the protocol team, let's make some rules that are going to benefit just part of the network or part of, no, everything's open. Everything, it's very fair. And the importance is that basically without the protocol, then you wouldn't be able to have clients implementing Ethereum. So basically, Ethereum wouldn't exist without the protocol. It's like there's no way for Ethereum to exist without the protocol. And so I think the importance of the protocol is basically, make sure that Ethereum exists and moves forward, because that's another problem, right?
No, go on.
No, yeah, just so it's make sure that
Okay.
Ethereum exists and make sure that Ethereum is also moving forward and adapting to the changes, like the change from proof of work to proof of stake, and evolving and keeping up with the demands and the needs of the people using it. So very
So
important.
if the protocol was a human and I kill it and I take it out, I'm done with Ethereum. Ethereum is over. There's no more Ethereum.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is a bit more personal, right? So you mentioned that you are currently on the master's program focused on blockchain technology, right?
Yeah. So I'm currently
What
doing a master's, but it's not.
what specific areas are you interested in
Yeah.
exploring, or are you currently exploring?
Yeah, so my master is not like a master in blockchain or anything. It's a master of information technology. It
Oh,
is, yeah, but it is, and it's actually an interesting one because it has a mix of technical and non-technical papers and areas to study.
yeah.
For me, it's been very interesting because I get to I have a chance of, again, multiple domains when it comes to protocol, but I have a chance of deep diving on specific topics. For example, one of the papers that I recently took was a paper on advanced cryptography. So I could actually learn more about cryptography, not just like the little bits that we use currently for Ethereum, but a little bit of the theory behind cryptography, some of the research around cryptography. So hopefully that can help me in the future to contribute to the protocol, even if we want to change the way that cryptography is used in Ethereum, for example. So for me, my master is a way of keeping me up to date with the research and kind of pushing me to learn more about things. But it's not a master's in blockchain. It's a master in information technology as a general thing, and gives me the skills that I need to be a better protocol engineer.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. Education is always very important to. So I think there was a part you mentioned yellow paper, and you said
Yeah.
you're going to. Initially, when I hear about yellow paper, then yellow paper, white paper, whatnot, I was thinking of cardboard papers and stuff like that. So, what is it about? For the sake of those that don't know anything about it, can
Well,
you?
I don't think I have an example of the yellow paper here. I should have brought like a picture of the yellow paper just to show you guys, but that's okay. So the yellow paper is, if you go back a couple of years, at least for me back in 2018, the yellow paper was this paper that described the protocol and what it looks like,
Mhm.
but it
Is it
described
is
the
a
protocol.
physical paper, yellow color? That
No, no. I think yellow paper is like a term that people use to refer to like those documents. So you know how sometimes when a new technology is launched, people say, "Oh, there's like a white paper explaining the technology," right? So the
yeah,
yellow
that's
paper is a bit. It's like it's a more advanced than a white paper.
disclaimer.
But it
Disclaimer. That question was not for me. It's not like I don't know what yellow paper. It's not like I'm I'm saying yellow papers are cardboard or papers. I'm just
no,
asking for the
but to
sake
be
of those
fair,
that might not know anything about it.
to be
So
fair, they did make there's like a PDF for the yellow paper, and they did make the pages yellow. So
okay.
it's yellowish.
Yeah.
So you're not that crazy, like to think that it's yellow. But the idea behind it is that it's you have white paper that kind of explains from like a very high level view, and then the yellow paper is
That's the
supposed to be a more
answer.
technical description, right? The
Oh,
problem with the
okay.
yellow paper is that it is too technical. It's very hard to
Hmm.
understand. It's full of like maths and different things, which makes it like at least for me when I was starting in protocol engineering back in 2018, it made it very hard to follow. Like I spent so much time reading that thing and feeling dumb. So that's so
The more you read, the more dumb you feel.
exactly, and that's when I started writing about the yellow paper back in 2018 as a way of almost
Yeah.
like forcing me to
Learning and
actually
yes.
try to learn it.
Learn better. Mm.
Um, so yeah, so that's the yellow paper. It's almost like the first formalization of the protocol in a way, right? That's how
Mm.
people formalize the protocol, the Ethereum protocol, using the yellow paper. It's a bit outdated now. Like now, most of the specification is written in Python, which is actually, I mean, it's easier to read in a way if you can read code, but it's, for some people, maybe the yellow paper is a bit better because it's like half of it is words and the other half is equations. So I don't know, but they both require some how to say, some skews. But I find the current specification written in Python to be easier to read. And I actually brought an example somewhere here. Oh yeah, here I talk a little bit about the protocol specification for the execution client. By the way, I'm gonna share the slides later. The slides are full of links, as you can see. So hopefully it makes it easier for people to kind of go through and if they want to explore this word, like the links in the slides can help. So I'll share the slides later, Karis, and then you can send to everyone. Hopefully they have access to the slides.
That'll be good. So I think I can take one.
Yeah, so just saying, yeah, it's open source. It's written in Python. It's supposed to be a reference implementation. So yeah, you can all go and take a look at the protocol. I actually brought some examples here just so people can at least connect a little bit of what I'm talking about. So this is an example, for example, how we are defining a beacon block on the protocol, like defining the data structure of a beacon block. And you can see that, I mean, it looks like code, but hopefully if you have like a little bit of background in software, you can probably look at it and understand, what it means. You have different fields with data types and everything. And then also the protocol has things like it defines functions and how the functions are supposed to work. So for example, here we're defining, the beacon block and the beacon body, and you can see that this function called process block receives the beacon block as a parameter. And then here are some of you're processing the head of the block and then some of the rules associated with it. So this just gives people a little bit of, that's the level of detail that it gets when we're talking about the protocol specification. It gets to as low as this is exactly how it's supposed to work. But I know that it might look complicated, but trust me, the yellow paper is more complicated, more complicated than this.
That's complication on another level.
Yeah,
because this is really looking very complicated. So I think I can take one. We can take like 2 or 3 questions because there are a lot of questions in the comments. So we can take 2 or 3 before we move on to the questions that we have. Let me take this one. Okay, so for people building custom clients, are they building from scratch? E.g., if someone is building RETs, do they just build the protocol from scratch following the main Ethereum protocol consensus rules?
Yeah, that's pretty much so there are 2 ways, right? If you want to implement a new client, you can basically get the protocol specification, you start implementing it. And I know it sounds so easy to just go and implement the client. It's a lot of work. But some people do it, like, some people also, they might decide to, let's say that, for example, with Teku, you're using Teku and then you don't like some of the way that we do things. You don't like, I don't know, the way that you think that the way that we are doing, like the database storage is not very optimal, and you think you can think of a better way of doing it. You can basically like fork the client, like you can fork the code and then have your own version of it. You can have like a custom Teku version if you wanted to. I would appreciate that if you do that, please put the contribution back in the project. It's open source, so let's make instead of having multiple versions of the same client, we can probably have one that it works better. But technically, you can have your own client. You can fork the existing code and modifying it, of course, as long as the licenses permit. Like Teku is Apache, so you can do whatever you want with it. But you can also write it from scratch. That's another option.
Okay, thank you. Leeds Dev, I hope your question was answered. So we'll do one thing, right? If you ask a question, if I ask your question and Lucas, answers it very well and you're satisfied, if you could put in the comments, oh, thank you for the answers, or probably react to the action, so we know that your questions, you're satisfied with the answers, right? So if your question is asked and if your question is answered and you're satisfied, you could put some reactions in the comments. So we know that we are still together. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. This is from Funny Collection. Why is ETH gas fee high compared to others in MetaMask. It's very high, like very high. Sometimes the gas fee is even like almost same as what you're trying to like withdraw or something. It's really, really high. So tell us.
Yeah, they are. That's a. I think it's a hard question to answer like completely, but I'll try. So there are a few different variables that play a role on the fees, right? And one one of them is the more people are trying to use the resources at the same time, the fees go up a little bit. And the other one is also like, depending on what you're doing, if your computation requires more of the Ethereum EVM, the operation becomes more expensive, right? Because basically the idea is that you pay per operation in a way. Like, so behind the scenes, when we're calculating the gas for a transaction, we are basically looking at every single operation that your code is going to do, or every single thing it's doing, and we're going to calculate like, okay, this is how much gas you need to pay for this run. And then you also have some of the fees associated with like sending the transaction to the network and everything. So why they are high?
Why are they high compared to others? Because others are doing the same thing. So why?
Yeah. So we have been working on ways of making it lower. And to be honest, I think nowadays one of the big thing in Ethereum is how we have the layer 2s doing a lot of work on behalf of users to keep the guys usage fees low.
Yeah,
So
I think it has to do with the high transaction rates, right?
the high what? Sorry.
Does it have to do with the high transactions on Ethereum?
In a way, yes. It's a complicated topic. And just for full clarity, I'm not the most well versed on all that goes into the economics of gas fees.
Okay.
I've been because the past 2 years I've been working on the consensus side of things, on the consensus layer, and the gas fees are more on the execution side of things. So I'm a bit outdated on what exactly has changed in terms of the calculations. But one thing that I know is that with layer 2s, you can get lower transaction fees and more throughput, which most of the time is enough. And the layer 2s, they are built on top of Ethereum. So in the end, you're still using Ethereum the same way. So depending on, especially if you're launching a new project or something, you could consider launching it in one of the L2 networks instead of the mainnet Ethereum network. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to be secured by Ethereum, right? It's still going to be
obviously it's still going to be secured.
Yes, it's still going to be pinned back into Ethereum.
It's working on the security.
Yeah, so that's but yeah.
I think we're good with that. Right?
Just one follow up. Someone is asking if the fees are high because Ethereum has gained a lot of value.
It's gained a lot of value, yeah.
And that is also a factor, right? Like
exactly.
Let's say
first mover,
if you're paying one ETH in fee, and then ETH now is like $3,000, it's more expensive than if ETH was costing like $100. So that I think that definitely also helps in the feeling in terms of, not the feeling like being concretely more expensive, but the number that you pay, like the number doesn't go up just because Ethereum is more expensive. But the problem is that if Ethereum is more expensive, that number it represents more like fiat money, right? So it is there's definitely that's also a problem. If you think, for example, if you're thinking about becoming a validator, you need 32 ETH, right? I think at current prices, 32 ETH is going to be like, I don't know, $60,000 US or something. But a couple of years ago, 32 ETH would be like $3,000 or something. So, you know, the number didn't change. It's still 32 ETH, but 32 ETH now. If you're going to buy 32 ETH now, you need to put a lot of more fiat into it. So that's part of that's probably part of the issue.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I see a thumbs up. So yes, the question justice was done. So I think I'll put one question from the audience. What would you recommend between hashing and encryption when building? 2, Okay, so there are two questions. Should I go ahead and say the second question, or do you want to take the first one first?
I think that was the one that there was a follow up on that
The
one.
validators on nodes prone to being corrupted, leading to the decentralization being ruined.
And then the same person followed up with because I think we asked for some clarifications on that question, and then they replied saying that
Oh, yeah, that's true.
when building a project with Solidity or any other language to avoid
When
sensitive
building a
data
project with
from
Solidity.
being seen or tampered with. Well, the hopefully, let me see if I understood the question, and then I'll try to answer it. One big problem with Ethereum, not with Ethereum. One big problem if you want to put sensitive data on Ethereum is that the data is publicly available, right? So that's one problem. So there are people working on solving this issue. Like there are L2 networks, for example, where they hide some of the transaction data, and then because you're transacting on the network, and then they kind of bundle a bunch of those things together, they scramble some of the data. So when it makes it into the Ethereum 1 layer, it is kind of hidden in between the other data. So I am trying to understand the question from the point of if you're working on an application that has some sensitive data, and then you want to store that data on chain, you need to think of ways, and hopefully I'm approaching this question from the right angle. You would need to think of a way. First, you need to think of if you really need the sensitive data on chain, because sometimes you could have maybe a representation of that data on the chain, like hashing the data or something. So you can always go back and write a proof that matches the original data or something. That would be a way of doing it. Or you would need to go with one of the networks that give you that kind of transaction privacy that you are looking for. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question, but
I think the person would have to do more clarification on the question, so we don't waste too much time. So yeah. I'm going to ask another question. It's a bit drifting away. It's drifting away a bit, right? So since you work for ConsenSys and you are an Ethereum protocol engineer, I'm sure you must have attended DEF CON in the past. Can you briefly tell us about your experience? Like DEF CON is around the corner and everybody's, hyper about it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your experience?
Yeah, I did. And DEF CON is actually it's a pretty awesome event. I have let me quickly. Yeah, that's just one slide with some events. Like you can see the DEF CON is like the first one on the list. DEF CON is definitely like it's probably the biggest event for Ethereum that happens every year, almost every year. And the one cool thing for me about DEF CON is that it has a specific track for core protocol development, right? Some of the other events, they focus a lot. Sometimes they focus a lot on the application side of Ethereum, like people implementing different projects with Ethereum. They focus a lot on some of the other aspects of Ethereum, but not on the core protocol of Ethereum. But DEF CON is definitely one that has like a dedicated track just for core protocol development. So you have people from protocol talking about their research, talking about the project that they have been working on. So it's definitely like a very an event that I enjoy. It's not necessarily the easiest one to get to because it can be quite expensive getting to DEF CON, especially because it's always like in a different place. So you need like all the traveling and everything. The tickets, for the tickets, there are ways that you can pay a little bit less, but it's still like, I think like the regular ticket's like $600 US dollars. So it is quite expensive. But one thing that they do that I find it very, very, very cool, and I'm very grateful for what they do, is that every single presentation is available on YouTube. So even if you can't attend the event, I would totally recommend you going on YouTube and going through like past events, and then you have access to all the content that is there. And I love that they do it because it's kind of part of the associated with the Ethereum mission of making it available for everyone, right? So I love that they go and make it available for free to everyone on YouTube. So even if you can attend the event, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, it's not worth going to the event. Of course, the event is cool. You can go and.
But with the barriers that are beyond you, we could going
but
on,
the,
man.
at the same time, if you have access to YouTube, you can watch, pretty much all the you have access to all the content that everyone else has. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that they do it. The next one is happening in November. It's going to be in Thailand. I'm going to be there. If anyone, if anyone from here goes, you can let me know. We can catch up in person. But yeah, it's a very cool event. It's very, very, very nice. We have other events like DevConnect and ETC that also happen every year. And I even added It's Safari to the list because I saw that it's coming up in September. Is it?
True.
Hopefully, I'm not like broadcasting wrong information, but I did see on the website.
I think it's September. I'm not
Okay,
so
cool.
sure. Coco would give better information about that. I think Coco is here. Oh, she dropped out. Oh, Coco, are you speaking? I can't hear you. We can't. Lucas, can you hear her?
No.
No.
Oh, better
now.
now. Can hear you now.
Wait. I can hear you now.
Oh, nice. Amazing. Yes, it is in September. We're super, super excited for Eat Safari. But like you mentioned, Lucas, the DevCon team uses Stream8 in order to upload the content almost instantaneously. So even if you are unable to attend, the content is definitely there. Something that I always get surprised about is at these global events, like I was just at ECC a couple weeks ago, and the audience, I feel like the audience, there's like 6,000 people at ECC, but like the audience in some of these talks are like less than 10 people, like less than the room that's in Uganda right now. And,
Wow.
and I think because the main aspect of these events that are valuable is getting to meet people and getting to have those conversations. And I always recommend like people dedicate time to watching those on YouTube because that's when you can dedicate time to like learning and when there's a lot more focus. So yeah.
Excellent.
Thank
There's
you for
just
that.
Carrie. So there is one question in chat now that I think will be probably worth answering, which is from
What
Michael.
pathway?
Yeah, Michael's
What
asking
pathway
what's the pathway. Yeah,
would you chat for someone who is completely new to programming to being able to dabble or engage in Ethereum in programming? I think I even have that question in our questions, but we can answer that now. So
yeah,
you
cool.
can go ahead, Lucas.
I like this question because it kind of links with the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the
Okay.
Ethereum Protocol Fellowship. So I was like, oh, that's a good timing.
Perfect.
So before I talk about the fellowship, so what's the pathway that I would chart? So well, if you're new to programming, you are already on the right track because I think the first step would be learning to program, right? So that assuming that you are learning to program and you are on this path, that's already good. Because if you think about it, programming for Ethereum protocol is not different from programming for different domains. It's just like what area of expertise you're going to be learning to complement your, because any programming that you do, you have the core programming, but you have the domain around it that you need to know. Like if you're programming for fleet management or if you're programming for like banking, you need the domain outside the programming side of things. You need to learn more about banking. You need to learn more about fleet management. So Ethereum, you need to learn more about Ethereum if you want to program for Ethereum, right? So that's the right path. You start programming, you start focusing on learning more about the Ethereum protocol and learning more about how things work. The Protocol Fellowship is and then I'm linking it to the Protocol Fellowship because the Protocol Fellowship is a very cool program created by the Ethereum Foundation with the goal of like onboard developers into protocol development, right? So it's almost like a way we acknowledge that protocol development sometimes looks a bit scary. Not everyone wants to get involved. People most of the time that people start programming for crypto, they kind of go and start learning Solidity and start writing, web smart contracts and dApps and everything. But they kind of not a lot of people want to dive deep into the behind the scenes and in terms of like how we keep Ethereum working. So the way that it works is they have this program that runs for a few months. You get paired with a core developer as a mentor, and you participate on like weekly calls with all the participants of the program. You can almost everyone that participates in this program gets like a monthly stipend from the Ethereum Foundation. So basically, you're getting paid to study and learn, which is like not, it's not every day that you get that kind of opportunity, which is great. So it's a way of getting people onboarded on protocol development, which is pretty much what you are asking in your question, Michael. So I would suggest anyone that is interested in protocol development and anyone that is interested in diving into following this path to check this opportunity with the fellowship program. Unfortunately, the timing now is not great because the applications for the next cohort finished in May, so we kind of missed this. But if you keep an eye out of it, this is going to run until November, and once it finishes, so the next cohort, it's going to be usually they announce it and then people apply for it, and then you can participate. So they have I don't know all the details. Like I've linked on the slide, so you can look at the details, all the requirements and everything. There aren't that many requirements in terms of like location or anything. It can be anywhere in the world. Anyone can participate. So Michael, if you are interested or if anyone else is interested, I would definitely recommend looking at this opportunity if it's something that you are interested in. We have had examples we had one person, for example, that was being mentored by one of the developers in my team, and by the end of the program, they were doing so well during the program that we decided to like extend them an offer to actually work for Consensus, right?
Wow.
So this is so that's like a great opportunity. Like you start doing it, and by the time that you finish like your 6 months, I guarantee you that by the time of this program, almost any of the core development teams are going to be, if they are hiring, of course, and sometimes they're not going to be hiring, but if they are, you have like a very strong curriculum because it's so hard to get people into protocol development that if you had someone that spent the past few months studying it and showing, what they can do, that's like an amazing opportunity for getting onboarded.
Okay. Thank you for that. I can see Michael is really happy about the answer and is saying he's going to apply for the next one. Amazing. Thank you so much, Lucas, for that. So my next question brings us to Ethereum's roadmap. Can you brief us on the Ethereum's roadmap from the protocol perspective?
Yes, I can give I'll probably
Sorry,
focus more.
I'm using my touchlights. Nigeria happened. Just the lights.
It's cool. Creates like a dramatic effect on the light with the lights. So as we talked before, the Ethereum moves forward, the protocol moves forward into this kind of batches of changes, the forks that we have. The next one that we have coming up is what we call the what do you call it again? Electra. It's a bit complicated because we have different names depending on the we have one name for the consensus side of things and one name for the execution side of things, and then they create this combined name. I'm talking about Electra because that's the one on the consensus side. What are some of the changes that are coming? There's actually one very interesting change which has to do with the balance of validators. I'm trying to think if I can explain it in like half a minute, but it might be a bit complicated. We have one interesting one, which is around how the validators can exit without needing the validator key, but using the key that they have on the execution side of things. We have it's hard to talk about it because we have a lot of like technical stuff that hopefully it makes things a bit. We have a big one because someone was talking about gas fees, right? So we have one that is gonna hopefully improve the availability of data for blobs. And sorry, I know that the lingo sounds super technical, but basically we're going to be improving the availability of blobs, which means that we can hopefully increase the number of blobs available on each block. Wait, I'll get to the interesting part. And that means that eventually it's going to make it cheaper for L2s to store data on the chain. If it becomes cheaper for them to store data on chain, those savings can be passed down to the users, for example, of L2s, right? So that's an example. That's an example of like how something very deep down into the protocol can have some repercussions on all the different layers, on top. So I think that's like the short-term roadmap. It's happening hopefully in the next couple of months. In terms of long-term roadmap, we have things like we all want to improve, the transaction throughput in Ethereum. Want to be able to have more transactions per second. We want, reducing gas fees. We all want to do everything we can to, make gas fees lower. We all want to make sure that Ethereum runs in.
Not take away gas fees. If possible, not take it away completely.
We want to make sure that Ethereum runs in the lowest possible like hardware. So more people can run Ethereum nodes and things like that. So there's a lot of things happening. We actually have. I probably should. I'll update the slides. We have a link from a very nice like post with basically like a breakdown of the short-term roadmap and the like long-term like 5 to 10 years roadmap of Ethereum. So I'll make sure that I update the slides with that link because I think it's going to make a better answer than mine. my answer might be too focused on the protocol level, but I think there are cool things happening on all the different layers.
Okay, that'll be good. Okay, so I don't think we have. So my next question is I understand that you love writing, you enjoy writing. Are there any projects you're currently writing about, or any specific resources you would want to recommend to listeners here?
Yeah, so I do love writing. I do have this passion for like helping people and understand things. Unfortunately,
so are there any resources you could share? Or projects you're currently writing or you've written that you could share to help everyone here learn more?
I have. Yeah, I have a bunch of like good resources. I have a slide just with resources here that I think can be useful for people. I'll share this. We have the white paper, the yellow paper that is yellow. We have the beige paper, which the beige paper is supposed to be
yellow.
The beige paper is supposed to be like in between a bit deeper than the white paper, but not as technical as the yellow paper. So people have done all the different types of papers. We have like my blog, my series of blog posts that I wrote back in 2018-19 about the yellow paper.
Okay.
This Upgrading Ethereum book by Ben Edinson is a very, very good resource. It's still under progress. He's still working on it, but it's very, very good. Yeah, I think like those are probably like the best resources for people getting started that I would suggest.
Okay, so I think they're already on the slides. So obviously we're going to get the slides across to.
Yep.
Coco is going to handle that, so everybody can get the resources. So my next question is, how do you? This is more personal. I think. Do you still have any more technical things to share?
No, I think that those are the all the technical stuff.
Okay. What are some projects that you've worked on, and what are some projects you've worked on? Can you briefly talk about the projects?
Yeah. Okay. I can. I actually had a slide on that. So the past 7 years, my time has been 100% focused on protocol development. I worked for 5 years in Besu and 2 years in Teku, which so 5 years on the execution client. Even before it was an execution client, when it was just an Ethereum client. I've also done some work on what we call enterprise Ethereum. So that's something that kind of got a lot of traction back in 2019-20. It kind of lost some traction now. But the idea was to get, the large corporations into Ethereum, because usually they don't like Ethereum, right? They don't really want to use Ethereum. They don't like this idea of everything open. So the Ethereum Alliance, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, was created with this goal of, well, let's try to make Ethereum a little bit easier for them to use with some kind of, some of the things that they are used to. So as a kind of a step to bring them closer to Ethereum and eventually having them fully embrace Ethereum. So I did work on like the enterprise client specification, which was things like, what does a enterprise Ethereum client need, as opposed to like a regular client or something. We're talking about private transactions, network permissioning, and a bunch of those things. But luckily, this has kind of died down now. I think, like especially with the surgence of L2s, you can have L2s with dedicated features that will be more interesting for enterprises or not. So everyone can play now. They can choose, what L2 kind of has the best features that they want. So they don't really need to run custom networks for them anymore. I mean, some still do, but it's probably not the most thing. But yeah, most of my time has been spent on these two projects and some of the projects around those two. Like we have Web3 Signer that does transaction signing. We have a bunch of things. But yeah, it's been pretty focused. I don't do much else than protocol engineering, unfortunately, especially with my time being split between two little kids, protocol, and my masters. I don't have time for side projects anymore. Part of the reason why I haven't been writing on my blog the past few years, it's been a bit stale. Unfortunately, it is something that I like. I really enjoy doing, but I haven't had the time to do it.
Talking about time, how do you manage to balance your work as a blockchain engineer? Because I know how technical and very time consuming it can be. My sister is a blockchain engineer, actually the first female blockchain engineer in Nigeria, Oluchi Enebeli.
Awesome.
Right. And I know how very she hardly has time to do most things or other things, right? Because it's so very time consuming. How do you manage to balance your work as a blockchain engineer with your passion for learning and sharing information?
Okay, how do I balance my time? That's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer to it, but I do try. I do try to be mindful about I truly believe that if I have a balanced lifestyle, I will probably end up doing a better job if I spend 14, 20 hours working every day, it's going to get to a point where I'm going to burn out. I'm not going to be able to make good decisions, and I'm not going to be writing good code. So I do try to keep that in mind. And I'm very fortunate that Consensus is a company that is remote, so we work from home. So I don't, because for example, back in Brazil, when I'm from Rio, it's this big city. We have traffic, so I remember going to the office and back from the office was a pain. I would spend hours, in the bus. So working from home, it's good because at least I cut some of that time.
Exactly.
So I get a little bit. So, but what I try to do is be mindful about spending time with family is important. Spending time, with myself is important. I think one thing that people don't really pay a lot of attention is how much mental health is important. Making sure that you try to improve as a person every day and be be good with yourself. Exercise is a good thing. I'm not the best person to talk about exercise. Don't let my wife listen to it. She's probably gonna jump in here and say that I need to do it more. But I do try to do it. I do try to have this kind of healthy balance. Probably could do more. But I think, I think we need to acknowledge that it's not, sometimes we try to think too much about the short term and I'm going to do 14 hours a day and get this feature out without thinking of the price that you're paying to actually do those 14 hours.
Exactly.
I try to follow the kind of steady and kind of balanced pace. It's going to take me further in the journey. So that's kind of the way that I try to do it. And I'm very lucky that I work with a team of people that are very capable. They all follow the same kind of thing. The company Consensus kind of understands, and they also have this kind of culture. So everything aligns well, so we don't have to work too much and burn out.
Amazing. All right, thank you. So have we been enjoying the session so far? If we have been following and enjoying this session, can we put some reactions in the comments so I know that you're not just listening, but you're actually enjoying everything, that you're enjoying the conversations and you're getting value. So if you're getting value and you're enjoying the conversations, can we see some reactions in the comments? Ooh, I'm seeing fire. Amazing. Ooh, wow, that's nice. That's good. That's very encouraging. Thank you, everyone. Glad that you all got value, or you all are getting value from this conversation or this session. Okay, now we have that. I think we are done with like most of the technical parts, right? And I'm sure that everybody got value and was able to understand the world of Ethereum, right? And a little bit of Lucas' story. So I'm going to ask Lucas, outside of Web3, what do you do for fun? What? Okay, video games.
Fun.
I think you say video games.
Yeah, I did
Apart from
say
video
video
games,
games.
what else do you do for fun?
I'm a big fan of video games. I think I think people can probably see behind me. I have like a TV with a bunch of them. Like, and I'm a big fan of like old school video games. So this is like one of the old TVs. I'm a big fan of So yeah, so that's how I spend a lot of my time. I did put on the slides that I do. I enjoy hiking and everything, which is something that I do here in New Zealand. Hiking is so many like nice places to do it. I actually did a very nice bike ride when I was in Kenya. I think it was like
Ooh.
Hell's Gate. I loved it. It was so
Wow.
cool. I got to do like a bike ride there. That was pretty cool. I love doing like
Amazing.
stuff with nature. That's something that I like. So yeah, probably nature and video games. Oh, video games and
Amazing.
nature. That order.
Amazing. It's good that you still have time to like have fun, aside from being a protocol engineer, right?
Mhm.
You manage to have that work-life balance. It's good. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging. Okay, so my next question: if you could invent one new cryptographic technique specifically for blockchain applications, what would it be and why?
I could. Can I cheat a little bit and
My
say that
teacher,
I would invent something that would reduce gas fees? just
Amazing.
kidding.
That would be a very nice invention.
Well,
Or
to
something
be
that would
honest,
take away gas fees.
it doesn't
Something that
have to
would
do
take
with.
away gas fees completely. Something that would take away gas fees
Unfortunately,
completely.
cryptography is not really going to change the gas fees, unfortunately. But if I could change, if I could invent something, it would be cool.
Amazing.
Does that work as an answer? I know that's going to be a popular answer. So
It's a perfect answer. It's a perfect
Pretty
answer.
popular option.
Okay. What's one Web3 or tech you could get cancelled for?
Yeah, it's cancelled for. Oh, that's interesting. Well, sometimes I feel like the age of NFTs has kind of come to an end in a way. Yeah. I remember as a protocol engineer working with Ethereum, I have a really hard time explaining to people what I do, right? And when people like friends and stuff, like people that don't really understand much about the ecosystems, when they see news on the TV about people buying NFTs, paying like millions of dollars or whatever, it makes my job very hard because people keep thinking that I'm working for these companies doing like money laundering or something. They don't. It makes my life very hard to explain that. Well, it's one thing that people are doing with it, but it's not necessarily the core of the technology. So I think that's probably one thing that I know that some people love NFTs and some I like it as a concept, but I think the way that we went into like all this things, selling them and getting crazy about it, it's probably not the best showcase of what Ethereum can do. But yeah, so I think that. But I mean, if I go on Twitter and say something like that, I think people are not going to be happy with me.
Yeah, going to get cancelled for real.
So
Can we edit this out from the presentation?
Too late. We're live.
What do you say?
I said it's too late. We're live. Being recorded and
exactly. They're going to come for you, Lucas. They're going to come for you. Get ready. Yeah. Someone is asking what video games. You say you enjoy playing video games. Is it PS5 or Xbox?
Oh, I play all of them, but I've recently played a lot of Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 because those are the ones that I grew up playing, and I love playing those. I do play a PS5 sometimes, but I've been enjoying more the old games.
Do you find that there is any link? Yeah, do you
Okay, so
find that
yeah,
there's
do you
any
find there's any connection between gaming and programming, like concepts
Gaming
or
and
thinking
programming.
patterns that cross over between your programming and gaming, and what is it?
Ooh.
Questions.
I think there's. I think I do love like games where you have to kind of solve like puzzles and figure out how to progress, right? In a way, I think programming has this kind of aspect to it. Sometimes you get stuck and then you need to figure out the solution for a specific problem, right? So I think like playing games, basically what you're doing is like solving problems, and programming most of the time you're solving problems. So I think they are, that's probably
They're
like
related.
a strong link between them.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
true.
so
That's very true. That's very true. Okay, so I have one more question,
okay.
or two more questions. Then we call it a day or a night. I think we have overspent. We have overspent. Okay, we are 6 minutes beyond time, so I think we can make that just
Okay.
10 minutes. So one, two last questions, right? Let me see which one I should pick, so I don't. Okay, I think I should ask this. What are some of the most common misconceptions you encounter when explaining cryptography or blockchain technology?
that we are not just here to launder money. I think. no,
Exactly.
no, I think
That
like a
one.
big misconception with crypto is people think that crypto is just like a way to get rich, or it's just something. A lot of people see about like the trading aspect of crypto, like all the
Yeah,
tokens and everything, and they don't realize that crypto is so much more than just trading tokens or buying and investing, right? There's especially with Ethereum, with all this, again, it's a global computer. You can implement solutions that can do different things, and in a way that cannot be censored, cannot be stopped. Like so those things are very powerful, and it makes me sad sometimes that when I talk to people, they just focus on like, oh yeah, crypto. Should I buy crypto? I don't know how many times
exactly.
I've
That's the
met
question.
someone. And then when they ask me what I do, and then I mention that I work with Ethereum, something, and they're like, "Oh, you must be rich. You're probably buying." And I'm like, I'm not buying and selling crypto as a living. I'm not like a trader.
Exactly.
You know, people think that you just crypto is just the trading side of it, which again,
Yeah,
it is part of the ecosystem, but it's not what defines
it's
the
not the
ecosystem for me.
exactly.
But it can be very hard to change people's opinion on that when you
Exactly.
talk to them.
Once I think it applies to like Web3 in general. If you tell somebody you're in tech or you're Web3, the next thing they're asking is, "Oh, you're in cryptocurrency. You're a crypto trader? Do you trade? What do you trade? Blah blah. How much do you have? Ah, you
Yeah,
must be
should I
very
sell?
rich.
Should I sell? Should I buy? What do I do?
Exactly. That's the first thing that comes to people's mind. Like, and I won't really blame them because crypto trading really went um viral. Right? It went to the market viral. So I think I have. Let me ask this question. Imagine you have a time machine and you can travel to the future. What role do you envision cryptography playing in the future of blockchain technology? You have a magic
Um,
time machine. Time machine.
well, there is one big problem with cryptography, sorry, which is I'm not sure if everyone heard about the big concern with quantum computing and cryptography. That's like a topic that people have discussed. So because in a way, the way that cryptography works right now for us is because it's impossible for a computer nowadays to break cryptography in a reasonable amount of time, right? So if you're trying to break
Mm,
cryptography, you need to spend, I don't know, like 20 million years or whatever. So it makes it impossible. But if your computers get powerful enough, it might get to a point where you can break cryptography just by the sake of brute forcing it. So I think in the future, a big challenge for crypto, not and it's not a challenge for crypto Ethereum, it's a challenge for the whole computing system in the world, because everything uses cryptography in a way or another, right? We talk about
mm,
crypto using cryptography, like signatures and everything, but like
yeah.
secure browsing with HTTPS is using cryptography. The data that your bank stores for your credit cards or whatever, they're going to be stored they're gonna be stored securely using cryptography. So that's a big problem for the whole digital systems out there.
Yeah, true.
So if I could travel to the future, I would like to, I don't know, figure out if they broke the, if they actually got there and how I can prevent it from happening again, or if I can anticipate how they are gonna do it, and then to be fair, there's a lot of research on this area, and there are what they call quantum secure cryptography algorithms. So there are quantum secure algorithms out there. Maybe what we need to do is start using it before the quantum computers come and break everything. So it's a huge area of research. It's definitely out of my league. Like I'm not that into the actual research for quantum cryptography or anything. But
Right.
yeah, maybe that's something.
Thank you for that. So we're going to take 2 more questions from the audience, and then, so what are some of the best use cases of crypto? This is Kokeb. Coco. What are some of the best use cases of crypto?
Best use cases. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I think getting. I'll use one that I saw recently that I found it was very interesting. Right. So when it came to the DevCon tickets that we were talking about DevCon earlier, they implemented this very interesting system with they call it like a raffle auction system. I don't know if anyone heard about this before. It was the first time that I read this concept, and they implemented it using smart contracts and everything. So it was completely open, and everyone could see that it was a fair system. And basically, the idea is that it's kind of an auction so they put like 200 tickets for sale. There was an auction for the top for 20 of the tickets, and then the other. So there was an auction for 20 of the tickets, and then the other 180 would go for people for a base price. I'm making a terrible job of explaining it, but the idea is that like a few people are gonna pay more for the tickets in the auction, and that's gonna basically fund the rest of the tickets in a way, like almost like subsiding the tickets for everyone.
Oh wow!
And that was a very interesting way of making it, because it's almost like part of it is people that can pay a bit more, they pay a bit more on the auction, and by doing that, they're kind of helping someone that wouldn't be able to pay that much. Yeah, and so so I would recommend people to just go and read a little bit about how it was implemented and how it works, because I'm making not a great job explaining it. But that was like an interesting use case for me, because usually when we think about the way that the world works, sometimes it's like, if I have 200 tickets, I'm gonna sell them as expensive as I can, right? That's how the world works sometimes. So I love when I see people with these kind of creative ways of making things a bit more like fair, and kind of like helping to distribute like access and things. And I think like the crypto community has this
exclusivity. Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like this is something that's very ingrained into the crypto ecosystem, which I love to see. So those projects, like I always love those projects. I find them pretty cool. So that I think those use cases where you get something and make it like more accessible and viable for other people.
So everyone,
and again, transparent, because of the way that crypto works. I love those use cases. I find them they're very interesting.
Amazing. Accessibility, transparency. Okay, so the IL Labs is asking, do you get paid in USD or ETH?
But say that again, sorry.
Do you get paid in USD or ETH?
If I get paid in New Zealand dollars or
USD
Ethereum.
Or Ethereum, yeah.
Oh no, I get paid in New Zealand dollars. Yeah, it is. To be fair, this is something that since I've joined Consensus, people have been talking about and asking about, like getting paid in crypto and stuff like that. The problem is that when it comes to like local jurisdictions and everything, it makes it very complicated. So the company was never able to just like, let's pay everyone on ETH or something. You're gonna get in too much trouble because we have like people in different countries and everything. Every country has a different regulation and everything.
Okay, that's true.
So in a way, paying everyone in crypto is a easy way of getting around regulation, but it's also a very quick way of getting into trouble for the company. So it's like it's something that we didn't do.
Very careful about. Okay, Higher Labs. Hope your question was answered. We'll take one last question from the audience. What's your take on projects implementing gas subsidies for users? Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just processing the question.
Okay.
I am not necessarily familiar with like a lot of those projects, but I think so. But I would say that anything that is making using Ethereum more accessible for users, I would think that's a good idea. So I'm not unfortunately I'm not familiar with projects doing that necessarily right now. I think I
Okay.
know. I think I've seen like a swapping platform that does something like this, but I'm not really familiar with any other projects. But it sounds like a good idea. So I'll totally incentivize people to come up
Okay.
with basically creative ways of making it more accessible and affordable. I think that will be like one of the big
As long as
things.
it's making it more accessible to people. Okay, so do we have any more question? I think this brings us to the end of. I have just one last question that I'm going to ask. But before that question, I want to take any other question that we have. Do we have any other question? If we don't have any questions, then I think we've kind of come to the end of today's session. Are there any more questions? Why am I raising my hand like I'm inside? Like I'm in a physical venue. So do we have any more questions from probably Web3 clubs, Uganda, Higher Labs? Do we have any questions? No question. None from Uganda, none from Higher Labs, none comments. Okay, so I see one question here. What can
But
you...
wait,
Okay,
Chris, I'll just end it here because remember Lucas woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be with us,
so I
and
think
we
I'm
are
just going to ask my
yes.
last
Ask your
question.
question, and then I'll wrap up with my announcements. Yes.
Let me ask my last question before, and then call it a night, or call it a day or a morning. What's one popular advice that didn't work for you in your career journey? And what's the best advice you would give to aspiring software developers interested in pursuing a career in blockchain engineering, protocol engineering? That's my last question.
Yeah, popular advice that didn't work for me. Interesting. Well, I think unfortunately when it comes to software engineering and development, people have this idea that you like super smart and then you need to be able to do everything by yourself and then you need to get better than everyone else so you can actually succeed, right? So it's almost like this idea of the geeky guy in the corner working by himself and cracking a bunch of code and doing everything, like the genius doing the and some people and I think I've met people that actually pursue that kind of like way of coding and way of programming and everything. And I always went kind of the other way around most of the time. Like I was always happy when I had people smarter than me working with me because for me it was like a way of learning, and I have this very like collaborative way of working. I don't like to just sit by myself, come up with an idea, and then that's the best idea ever. I do believe that the best ideas come from like proving your idea with others, right, and then working together. Right.
Sure.
So I think it's not necessarily like a popular advice, but it's kind of a popular kind of like stereotype that people have when it comes to developers, that they are sitting down and very intelligent and doing everything by themselves. I think like I take that even for like my teams when I'm leading a team and I have people working with me. I would rather hire developers that are better at communicating and sharing ideas and getting together into like an agreement than one very smart person that can do a bunch of stuff by themselves, because I think working together makes it better. So that will be my kind of like,
collaborations. Embrace collaborations. If you're just coming in,
focusing in collaboration and learning from others, and that's why participating on events and things like this is those clubs where you get people together and talk. That's the way you get the best outcomes for me. That's that's when you get to learn and everything. So my I think my advice for people in this career is don't try to be the guy at the corner coding or by yourself. Be open to learn from people. Make sure that you collaborate, and then the internet today, there's so much good content available that even if you don't have the access to like a university degree or something, you can learn so much just by going after information and connecting with people. That I think that's that would be my advice. Just like go and try to learn as much as you can.
All right, thank you very much. I think that brings me to the end of my questions. Kokeb.
I'll take over. It's a great segue into my announcements because you're right, Lucas. I think some of the best opportunities to actually learn and improve your skills is in hands-on collaboration, which we're so excited that there's so many opportunities to do that all across the continent. I make a similar announcement every week, but it's, we have all these exciting events that are upcoming. So starting with ETH Accra, which is at the end of August. Then you have Web3 Lagos. So the big announcement there is their tickets and registration has gone live. So wherever you are on the continent, if you want to participate in the Web3 Lagos Hackathon, check out their website. You can now register and get to an understanding of what are the different bounties that are there. And I know all of us, so ETH Accra, Web3 Lagos, ETH Safari, we're actually going to be giving away DevCon tickets. So if you happen to win the ETH Safari Hackathon, Web3 Lagos Hackathon, ETH Accra Hackathon, we will be awarding winners like completely free DevCon tickets. This does not include your the travel expenses and things like that. But with the African On-Chain Collective, we're thinking about ways of how to get as many projects and as many African builders to DevCon, which brings me to my next announcement, which is if you are thinking about attending DevCon in Thailand in November, my urgency, my ask to everyone that's listening is please start looking at the visa process. It will take longer than 1 month to do this visa process with an African passport. Currently, with the different hubs, we're exploring what are some supports that we can offer, but just be prepared to cover some of the visa costs upfront. Yeah, so that would be my next announcement. And then the last but not least, I love what you shared, Lucas, about the EPF program. I hope that one day one person from our community, not just one, but multiple people from our community can have the opportunity at that fellowship. But I love the fact that you mentioned like being paid to learn, like you're only focused on learning. So Web3 Clubs has a very exciting masterclass scheduled with Cartesi, which is a Linux-based way of deploying on the EVM or kind of any blockchain. I'm personally a big fan of this learn to earn programs, mainly because there's just so much value in like dedicating time and upskilling, right? Which is how you get funded, how you get job opportunities, how you get the opportunity to actually deploy something in a project and test if what you're thinking in your head is actually usable. So back to that main point of collaborate. And so if you are interested in this program, it's actually 1 week long. This Cartesi Masterclass is 1 week long. It's the week right before ETH Safari, and it's going to be in person in Nairobi. It's fully sponsored, so you'll have accommodations and food and a really great learning environment for the week. And the only requirement to sign up now is you go through the Udemy course. So it's about an hour and a half on Udemy. You get to watch the videos and test out how to build things. I have linked it in the chat, but you can join any of the Web3 Club's community conversations in order to learn more. And then lastly, I love how you focused, you touched on mental health, Lucas, which is something that's really important to me and close to my heart. But I'm very excited that during ETH Safari, there's going to be a lot of wellness incorporated into the programming. And so, yeah, stay tuned for that. Next week, the question that I guess get asked most often is, how did you start? Like, what is your Web3 journey? And so I actually started with a fellowship called Kernel. It's an 8-week long educational fellowship. You have conversations with people from all across the world. And I'm honored that Andy, who runs and created the entire Kernel curriculum, will be joining us for next week's On-Chain Safari session. So if you've always wanted to have an understanding about me and my understanding of crypto, you'll have to join Crypto Wanderer session next week. And so you can always register on Luma, on the African On-Chain Collective. Yeah, I really love the fact that Uganda joined us today, because one of the main goals with these On-Chain Safari sessions was to create a path, a two-way path, to fix the social graph, so that we get to learn more about other parts of Africa, and then other parts of Africa can learn more about the global ecosystem. So, like I said, Lucas, I know you woke up at 5 a.m. to be with us here today, and we are so appreciative. Big shout out to Caress. You did an amazing job with preparing so many fun questions for this session, and I'm looking forward to next week. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
All right.
Thank you very much
Bye,
for
everyone.
having me, guys. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone,
and
for
then
having me.
the last thing, Lucas, I'm going to share your GitHub, because your GitHub has so many great repos in there. I'm going to share that with the community. And I feel like that would be a great way to stay connected with what you're building, because
Excellent.
you're a busy dad.
And I'll share my slides with you soon, because
Yes.
they have like a bunch of links. I've tried to like add links because I knew that it was going to
Wonderful.
be a good reference for people to kind of go through. So I'll share with you, and then you can maybe put the link on the, or I don't know, share with everyone.
Amazing. I will definitely take leadership in that. No problem.
Excellent.
Yes. Okay, see you guys next week. We need outro
Everyone.
music. I've been thinking about this. I'm like, we need intro and outro music. Next On-Chain Safari session, we'll do that. Or if anyone's listening and can create this music, I'm more than happy for your support. Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.